Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular Show.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. As always, I'm Josiah. Not as always, I'm in a different location. I promise this isn't like a ransom or a kidnap video. I'm not going to ask anyone to wire money or bring large bills, unmarked bills to a undisclosed location to rescue me. No, I'm just house sitting for the in-laws. But with me, as always, in his usual location is Travis Ross. Travis, how's it going, man? It's good to see how things go. I see that you have a little trim, hair trim there. Looks like you got yourself all done up for this episode of the Print on Demand Cast.
Yeah, I just got tired of looking like a woolly mammoth. And so as did my wife. And she kind of mentioned it. We're actually going on a little vacay in a week and a half or so. And so I thought, I'd get my hair did, for the thing. And so got a little trim, got a little beard trim. Don't look so much like a mountain man now. But same guy on the inside underneath all that hair. Things are going good. Things are going good over here. We're excited. We got a new embroidery person starting next week.
Nice.
So that'll make it so our production manager, Tate, will be able to be more just production manager and do some more R&D and some things like that. Focus on, some different areas as opposed to just production and just helping us get those embroidery orders out all the time. But yeah, so things are going good over here. How about you guys and What For Apparel?
Man, we're doing well. We're burning the candle at both ends, it would seem. Before we press record, I was telling Travis, for you, the listener, I was telling Travis, we had about 152 pages of orders that needed to be caught up. Understanding that this one client sold 1,300 orders in a span of 2 days. So we've been burning the candle at both ends. We're down to 49 pages, which is completely doable. And I will say, let me tell you just a quick plug. We're not sponsored by them, or we don't have an affiliate with them at all yet, but Transfer Express is a lifesaver. We have, because this client's doing such large volume and a lot of the same designs, we ordered screen print transfers from them because a lot of them are 1 or 2 color designs, and they're and even if they're about the same in ink cost, if we could print it for the same price, the labor savings that you get when you do that is astronomical. I mean, it's just a game changer. So we finally got our newest batch of those in for the newer designs, and it's just kind of, you fly. I mean, it's super quick. And if you're out there and you're wanting to kind of offer screen print quality on some of your stuff, and you're selling a high number of a single design, all you need is a heat press and a Transfer Express account, and you could possibly start bringing that in-house, which I guess is a different kind of a discussion or episode or point of interest or whatever. And I'm just saying Transfer Express has saved our butts multiple times in the past couple of months. But we're doing well, man. Anticipating the arrival of the 3070, which I know you are too. And you told me, you lucky bastard, that you're getting yours 24 hours before we do.
Yes, I am. Next Tuesday, actually. I just got the call today. They scheduled the delivery date, and they're going to deliver a forklift that morning. and because they can't put it on a lift gate and it's heavy, and so they
How do you
get it on the
deliver a
fork.
forklift? I wonder. Do they have a forklift that delivers the forklift?
That's
Record it.
you should probably Google that. But yeah, so they deliver the forklift, and then the guys come a little bit later, and and the thing is like we were thinking that it wasn't going to happen until the 1st of October.
Sure.
And so now we're actually redesigning our DTG room. We're kind of flipping it. So where the pre-treat machines are now, they're going to go to the other side, and where some of the heat presses are, they're going to go to the other side, and we got to ship stuff. And so all of that has to happen this week now, and we got to kind of get ready for that.
You got a new dryer though, right?
Tuesday.
Is that correct? You ordered
that is
a dryer?
correct.
So when does that get in?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's got a longer lead time. That's not going to get in till probably late October.
Okay.
And we obviously, as we redesign the shop, we're going to kind of design it to be able to house that, said dryer. But I still got some electrical work I've still got to do, and, kind of figure all that out with my landlord and get that all situated. But once that is here, man, we're going to be flying on these orders. I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know you guys are too. You guys already have the dryer, so you guys are you guys are going to be up and running immediately.
Yeah, man. And I'm a little envious, or I guess not envious isn't the word, but I'm disappointed that it won't get here sooner, because we have another order for like 438 shirts that needs to go out by, I think, the 27th of this month. And that 3070 is just because all of them are, as 14 by 16 full color, they're licensing stuff. So a lot of Street Fighter, a lot of Mega Man and Capcom stuff going out. Yeah. And so it's what the 3070 was made for. So I'm like, we're so close. But it's exciting that we are both kind of not really dipping our toes in anything. We're just going head first into this 3070 thing. I can tell you one thing, man. We've gotten the ink bladders in and the stuff that's kind of preempting its arrival. And the head cleaning kit for this thing is like,
it's massive.
Big. It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. So it's a different game. And I'm sure that we'll talk more about it when we each have our own, and there might be a point of interest or something to that effect.
A video or two.
We'll go to each other's shops and just nerd out on this new toy that we each have. But speaking about nerding out, dude, you were showing me before we pressed record some of your swag that you found from the UV Energize trade show conference there in Nashville. So I want to know, dude, tell me, first of all, of course, how was the conference? But how'd you like Nashville for the first time you going? I'm a little jealous that we didn't christen Nashville together.
I know,
but I'm sure there'll be more opportunities in the future. But yeah, man, tell us about UV Energize and everything that you learned there.
Yeah, Nashville is a great time. It's first time being in there, and obviously, if you're in our Facebook group, printondemandcast.com/Facebook, you saw I did a little live in there. If you want, you can go back and watch it. It was like after day one, and I put a couple videos of some of those things that we were doing that, like the trade show floor, and kind of, they had different stations set up. And so this first station was talking about jig print and how you create a jig for your particular job that you're doing. And the next one had like a maintenance station, and how do you maintain and what do you do? And, tips and tricks for that. I did learn some really cool things about, some maintenance things. Then they had another one that was like using glitter and a foil, not glitter, but foil, and like doing different things with your Mamakis. And then they had a brand new unveiling. It was the worldwide reveal of a brand new line of Mamakis. They had one of the machines there, of course, because they had gotten the permission to do it like the week before. They have no documentation. They have no pricing. They have nothing. They just have a few like bullet point things that Mamaki released about how the tray or the platen will support up to 60 pounds as opposed to like, I think 26 on the previous model. The kebab, which is the thing that does cylindrical objects, they call it a kebab. You might've heard it basically just turns and then the print goes on the cylindrical object, goes like 200% faster or something like that. And then a couple other like speed up. It has 2 more channels of ink. So on that particular model, you can add like a clear and a primer, which all of these things I know are kind of, I'm geeking out on them because I was really geeking out the whole time. But
Sure.
so I just wanted to show our YouTube watchers or viewers, I guess. This is like the tag or the the lanyard that they gave us, and they had one printed up for every single person, and then on the back was the schedule of events, and you could see how it's kind of shiny. That's because they printed it on this type of
sure.
I don't even know what it's called. It's like a PVC plastic, but it has like kind of a rainbow tint to it, if you will.
When you say printed it, and you might know the answer, you might not, but when you say printed it, is it the black? That tag you just had was predominantly black, right? So they printed the black ink as well on top of that clear,
correct,
like rainbow prism type thing.
Yep.
Then that's how okay.
They did that, and then also you can see there, if you could feel this, there's some texture on here. They use some clear.
Sure.
Actually, I'll show you a better version of it. They have all of their business cards are made of that same material, so it's like a PVC. And if I can hold it in the right, you see that Mamaki right there where it's flashing. That's actually
like a watermark type of thing.
Yeah, it looks like a watermark. It's a clear ink that they put on top of their business card. And then the other side is like, it'll blind you because it's just that same material, just with the colors on it. Sure. But this side has again, like you said, it has the black.
It's all
they covered it.
Yeah. So, I want to do something real quick. I mean, we didn't talk about this in the prep part, but we have here, I've pulled up the Facebook post here, and you can see the video here. So kind of talk us through. I mean, this is kind of some of the stuff that you had posted.
Yeah.
There. So you can see
all of this was done with a laser, and I'm not sure if there was a UV involved. They could have painted that, but it was done with a laser. So this table was all like client-based stuff that clients just had that they brought to show. So this stuff was done with the laser. It's really cool. It's got like two layers to it. So it's a lake, and then there's blue on the, where the lake was, and then up above is like the terrain and everything. This is one of their roll-to-roll printers that they do like stickers on. You can see that really cool media on it. That one right there is in the middle is the new machine. And they were, kind of talking that up and just talking about some of the things. I just kind of went through the room, and then all around in the middle were all the stations, and then all around the outside were all of the different vendors. And our friends at JDS were there. That's the JDS table. So you can see all of those polar camels, different sizes. You can not only laser engrave those, which we've been doing for a while. It's really cool. You can also UV them, and that UV coating just goes right on that powder coat, and it adheres really well. It looks great. You don't even need to use a primer to get the ink to stick. And you can see how gorgeous that stuff is. It just really pops.
It's so vibrant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then obviously these are some slate signs that they made with different, with colors. And then there's some this is like a leatherette frame that they UV'd on around, the frame, some more slate. And then they had a bunch of coasters there that you could UV on, just basically just giving us a smattering of what some of the things that JDS does. And JDS is awesome. And then again, another table here of just,
Tennessee whiskey,
all kinds of cool things. This is actually a canvas wrap that then they just put the canvas wrap down and they just UV'd on it. That's like a cutting board thing there that they UV'd on. You can see kind of some of that. There's that badge I was showing you a minute ago. Yeah. And then they do fishing lures with these things, which is just incredible. A bunch of name tags there you can do. I mean, dude, UV is kind of, in my opinion, it's so underserved. I was going to mention, here you've got PDS, which is the largest supplier of Mamaki printers in the world for UV printers. And it's their flagship event in Nashville, Tennessee. Their big event. They've sold, hundreds, thousands of printers all over the world. There were 125 people there. It's just nobody knows about this. It's not. It's the best kept secret, I think, in printing.
Because we talk a lot about how POD, merch by Amazon, all this stuff has the propensity and is becoming saturated, right? So if you're looking for something that is not as saturated, my wife has taken this course, it's an Etsy course, and the instructor is saying, we've actually had her on the show. I can't remember her name. The Beowulf.
Brittany Lewis.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife is taking her course, and she was one of the first interviews that we had. And Brittany
I'll find the episode
on
name.
the show. Yeah, great. That'd be awesome. So we can kind of direct the listeners. But my wife is taking her course, and one of the things that she talks about, of course, and this is in the aspect in the context of designs, but it's, go where there are fewer fishermen. Like in the context, in the analogy of a lake, don't go where all the fishermen are, go where there's less fishermen. And yeah, you might catch less fish, but eventually you're the only one out there. So you're going to be catching all of the fish because you've decided to kind of go to the spot where none of the fishermen are. So I think it's definitely applicable. And I just realized I had you on full screen for that whole thing. So they got to listen to me while they looked at you, but that's fine because you get your fresh haircut and the trim. I mean,
it's looking nice.
The Kansas City Chiefs shirt. So you're just on it all over.
Yeah. That episode was episode 31. Stop doing what everyone else is already doing with Brittany Lewis.
Yeah. So sounds about right.
Very appropriate.
Yep, absolutely.
It's one of it's actually one of our most listened to. It has some great downloads. And I think part of that is because she directed some people from her, her tribe, if you will.
There's a very, very loyal following.
Yeah. Sure. But a lot of people have really gotten a lot of value out of that episode. That's episode 31. So take a listen to that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So overall,
excited,
the UV, the UV conference was incredible. And they're talking about potentially doing another Energize in Las Vegas, like February, March timeframe. If that works, I'm probably going to bring Tate. Tate got sick and wasn't able to come. My production manager. But he needs to see this stuff. It's I think it's going to be a definite focus in 2022, just seeing what we can do to get those machines, making us money.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I think I've said it, a couple of times. For me, that is one of the end goals for me is UV, bringing that in house because it's so versatile, as we just proved. And if you're listening, as Travis was kind of describing, doing his best play-by-play of what was on the screen, you're going to have to come to the YouTube channel and subscribe and watch it and see for yourself all the amazing things that UV can do. We're super excited about it. And yeah, for me, like I said, I've said for a while, I think UV is the honey hole that I want to work my way to, because there's just so much stuff, even in a retail setting, there's so much stuff you could do with a UV printer. I mean, you and I, our first interaction, my first interaction for sure with UV was SGIA in Vegas when they let you pick a blank product, send a photo from your phone to the machine, and then they UV'd it on the cover of this. I have a picture of my wife and I on the cover of this journal. And it was just mind blowing to me because it was such a cool experience that even in a retail space, something like that would be really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. I'm all in with UV and intend to continue my journey, towards learning more. There's so much to it. And the Mimaki machines are incredible. They're really, really amazing machines. So that's the update
That's awesome
from the conference. It was great.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So for those of you that are doing production in-house or have a print shop yourselves, definitely look into UV because it's something that's super versatile. And if you're doing drop shipping or you're looking for a fulfillment center that can do UV, there's a lot you can do, and a lot of people aren't doing it and offering it on different platforms. So I see in the second point of these notes, for those of you that are listening, Travis and I do actually prepare. We have the notes. And in the run sheet, I jumped the gun and said that the 3070 for Travis is coming Tuesday, but that's fine. So lots of exciting stuff happening, man. So why don't we go ahead and transition to everyone's favorite segment, I'm assuming, and that is the weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
So Travis, I don't know if you know this or not, but recently started a band. I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah,
really?
No, I'm pretty excited about it.
That's really awesome. What's the name? What's the name of the band?
Yeah, so we decided to call it Books, so that way no one can judge us by our covers. And that's this week's weekly dad joke. And just a caveat there, if Travis and I did start a band, no one would judge us by our covers because we would rock their faces off. So
Amen.
that is just putting that out there. So from here, we're going to go directly to this week's point of interest.
Point of interest, part of the show. You want to learn some things, so the point of interest is where you go. Listen to what I say.
Travis, you found this week's point of interest, and I read the notes as we were chatting before we pressed record, and it is pretty phenomenal to see what's happening in the world of POD in terms of funding in that space. So why don't you tell the listeners this week's point of interest?
Sure. So this week's point of interest, I actually got an email. I have a alert for POD news, and I saw a story that was talking about Printify, and we all know Printify is one of the suppliers that a lot of our listeners use. I've used it. I don't know if you have, but yeah, a lot of our listeners have used it. They recently announced that they completed their latest round of funding, and they raised $45 million to invest into their company. So, I mean, what that tells me is immediately is there's so many things that, Printify is going to get better at, perhaps it's, some of their user interface stuff or, their website stuff, or perhaps it's just getting more suppliers. Perhaps it's getting more suppliers worldwide, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
But as I was looking at that, I saw a link to another story and I clicked on it, and I was not aware of this company. This company is called Gelato, and maybe our foreign listeners may have heard of gelato.com. It's actually a Norwegian-based POD supplier. And they're, as you can see on the screen, they're in 33 countries now, including the US, believe it or not. But they're not you don't think of them in the same breath as you think of Printful and Printify. Sure. At least I don't. But so I was really amazed at seeing that they have, in August, they announced that they received $240 million in funding. $240 million in funding. So my guess is that if you haven't heard of them, very soon you're going to be seeing a lot of them. I went to their website. I scrolled around a little bit. I saw some of their pricing. I was really impressed. They're not exorbitant amounts. They're on par with some of the Printify pricing. Obviously, I've not sampled these. I have no idea of the quality, much less than Printful. But I think a lot of our EU and foreign POD listeners may want to take a look at Gelato and just see if it's going to make. There was actually in our email. We got an email from a gentleman who was starting a POD company in the Middle East, and he wasn't sure if Printify or Printful could be his supplier. And so he asked me about it. And did not know about Gelato. So if you're listening to this, and I can't remember the person's name that emailed, I'm so sorry. But anyway, you may look at Gelato and see if that's going to work for your, with your logistics and everything. Because they have shipping prices, but they also have like estimated times to get to certain countries. So may or may not serve your particular country that you're looking to ship POD to. But it's worth taking a look and seeing how Gelato can serve you. And again, I think over the next, year, 2 years, we're going to hear a lot more about these guys in the POD space, even in the US, even in North America. We're going to hear about these guys because, like I said, they have a great website and they have great pricing, manufacturing sites all over the world. And again, with this kind of funding, they're going to be expanding for sure.
Yeah, man, that's exciting. What do you think that says for people like you and I who own our own production facilities and those listening who are doing production in-house? Do you think that says anything as well to the, businesses grow for the operating capital, right? So there are, times you have to go to investors or you have to kind of seek out that out. Do you think that is an indication that the POD market, is kind of ripe for that kind of investment, because there's so much opportunity out there that if you're doing well and ready to take that next step, there are people out there that might be willing to help you get to that. So obviously maybe not $240 million, but if you're just doing it from your house, if someone cut you a check for 6 figures, it could wildly change your operation if you're doing well in the stage that you're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think people much, much more wise than me have always talked about, follow the money. Where's the money going? And I mean, the print on demand industry as a whole is really ripe. It's really ripe to grow over the next few years. And you're seeing that with people writing checks for millions of dollars to these monster companies. Now, what does that say about the smaller mom and pop shops? I tend to agree with what Nick Eden said last week on our episode when we asked him the future of print on demand. And I tend to agree that I think we'll be just fine. And the reason I say that is because you have a segment of the population that loves to go to Walmart and to buy from Walmart and from Amazon and the big kahunas. And there's a large segment of people that they want that convenience factor. They want that ease factor. But then there's also a very large segment of our population. It may not be as large, but they want to shop local. They want to keep it kind of in the family. They want to have a face behind the transaction. And I think that for people like you and me, as these companies continue to grow and grow and grow, all it's going to do is just fuel the awareness of that. And so therefore, that small slice of the pie that wants to shop local, I really think that we get it. That the whole pie is going to get bigger. So that slice means it's going to get bigger. And so the mom and pop shops, I think, will continue to be able to survive and do just fine as long as they keep their eye on the prize, they stay focused and they stay in their lane, and they continue to build relationships. Relationships are key. They're key, and they're important in any business, of course, but I think particularly when you're trying to go more regional, more local, you can't sleep on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. It's super exciting to see the opportunities inside the print on demand space. And it kind of, at least for me, it's kind of like, turns out that we made a good choice, entering this field. Right? Maybe it wasn't as haphazard as we had thought it was. And maybe that's just the benefit of hindsight, trying to make ourselves seem smarter than we were at the moment. But that remains to be seen. So anyway, Travis, exactly. So this week's main event, man, is going to be a little bit different. So why don't you tell the listeners rather about this week's main event?
Main event. It's the main event.
Well, this week's main event is, like you said, it's going to be a little bit different. We decided, since we have all these people on and we're asking all these questions to all these people, let's go ahead and just, turn the tables and actually ask those same questions to each other. And I think there's obviously a lot of knowledge on this podcast right now. And I mean, I'm not trying to, okay, I'm patting myself on the back a little bit, but I think between us, we have some industry experience and there's some good knowledge here that, and we try to share it, as we can on the podcast, but I thought it would be fun to just, kind of hear our stories, kind of hear what we think about things, hear some of our failures, some of our successes, et cetera, et cetera. So I am going to interview Josiah Cifuentes. So welcome, Josiah, to the Print on Demand cast.
Hey, man, it's an honor to be here. I hear you guys are like the leading podcast in print on demand, like the place to be. Like, you want to listen to this podcast every single week if you want to know tips and tricks and helpful tools for print on demand as an industry. There's nowhere else to go. Not belittling any of the podcasts that our former guests currently host, but this is the pinnacle of
Wow. Well, we've never got such high praise from an interviewee. That's really great, Josiah. Thanks for saying all those really nice things about us.
Yeah, my PayPal address is.
All right, so let's jump in. So the first question we ask all our interviewees is, how did you get started in POD? And obviously, people have kind of heard some of that story. And if they've listened, if they've been a long time listener, they've heard a lot more. But so give us an abbreviated version of how you got started in POD.
Sure. So, of course, my first venture into e-commerce years ago was selling on Amazon, much like Travis, and that's actually how we got connected through that. As an addition to we attended the same church and all that stuff. But Travis actually trained my business partner Jason in the world of Amazon FBA. So we did that for a couple of years, and I realized pretty quickly that Amazon's great for the platform and the eyeballs, but it's pretty volatile, right? So you could wake up in the morning, and in our game, we were selling Nike shoes and Adidas. We'd go to the friends and family discount every weekend at 5 a.m. in Castle Rock and shop our asses off, and then have to turn all this stuff in on Monday. But the reality is we could have shopped all of that stuff on Saturday and woken up on Monday, and Amazon could have just said, hey, unless you are an actual retailer or wholesale account with Nike, you can't sell these anymore. So that's the volatility. And I realized all of these eggs in Amazon's basket is inevitably going to make an omelet that I don't want to eat. So decided to kind of diversify and do something that was more sustainable, that was ours, that we could grow ourselves, and get to a point where if Amazon were to tell us, hey, you can't sell on our platform anymore, it wouldn't be, it would suck, but it wouldn't be the end of the business. And so that's why we decided to diversify. It was kind of out of necessity. And as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And so that's why we decided to kind of pivot.
Here we go, pivot!
And do something that it's been done before. Like, our business model isn't necessarily super unique. In fact, there's a website that I found that I've known of because I'm a professional wrestling fan. And this particular print-on-demand company caters specifically to independent professional wrestlers, which is to say they're not signed to a major company. So I saw that business model and thought that could be successful because I know that they're successful. So I kind of took that idea and went a different direction with it. Yeah.
So, so tell us then, I mean, that kind of begs the next question. Where are you guys at today? What is your company, What For Apparel, look like today? What are you guys doing? Obviously, you're not doing the Amazon FBA, the retail arbitrage, the wholesale, all that stuff. You guys have pivoted into a print-on-demand fulfillment center. Tell us about your company.
Yeah, so right now the lion's share of what we do, of course, we still sell on Amazon, and we have Etsy shops. My wife has an Etsy shop that we fulfill for, and so we're still on the big platforms selling novelty stuff, right? Because why not leverage those platforms while you have them and sell the nonsense mugs and shirts that seem to sell really well. But primarily our focus is influencer marketing. We've talked about this before on the show, but what we do is we find YouTubers, Instagrammers, TikTokers, political personalities, whatever that looks like, that have a good following, that have the desire to monetize the following that they've built, and we partner with them. So we do their merch. We have the ability through we use Deco Network, which you've heard us. If you're a longtime listener to the show, we've talked about that before. So we use Deco Network, which gives us the ability to give these influencers a website as a part of our offerings, as part of our services, and they can list products for sale, and then they just drive traffic to the link, and we print and fulfill any orders that come through. So it takes, a lot of the marketing for this is, of course, on the influencer side of things. It's their job to drive traffic to the link, which of course takes a lot of the marketing pressure off of us apart from, having to promote ourselves as a company. Yeah. So that's basically the bulk of what we do. And there's a lot of interesting lessons. Not every influencer's the same. Not every account's the same, which I think is pretty applicable across the board. Like, there's some that will move really well for a month, but then they just kind of give up on it. And there's some, like the client that I constantly reference here, that has sold 1,300 items in the first 7 days of September. So there's they're not all created equal, but that is the basic business model that we do.
What kind of products are you guys fulfilling? Like, what print methods do you use? What kind of things are you guys serving up for your clients?
So right now we do, of course, DTG, and we do sublimation. And of course we have outsourcing capabilities for embroidery. or screen printing or whatever if we need to. But in-house, it's just DTG and sublimation right now. And that covers, of course, the basics, t-shirts, hoodies, and all that kind of stuff. But we also do home decor, wood signs, pillows, tea towels that we've gotten into.
I know you guys are doing hats. Hats with sublimation, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we do trucker hats that are sublimatable. I will say, though, they're impossible to find blanks of at the moment. Every supplier in the history of ever is currently waiting on stock. So it's ridiculous right now, man.
Think we on the Print on Demand cast, Josiah, I don't know if you know this or not, but on the Print on Demand cast, when someone has, an issue like that, we like to say that's an apparel rant.
Apparel rants.
Yes, it is an apparel rant.
It is an apparel rant.
That is exclusively our high volume client. That's what he moves. And I can't find white and black trucker hats to save my life. So if you're listening and you know where to find a lead on anything like that, drop a line to an unassociated email that's not the Print on Demand cast, because in this reality, I'm not the co-host. So, so yeah, no, seriously, if you know, let me know. So yeah, man, that's basically what we do, and it's working well. We're growing fast. We moved into an 1,800 square foot facility.
Nice.
And when we moved into it, my business partner, Jason, said, man, we'll never outgrow this space. And 2 months later, we have no room. We have no room. So we're going to need to expand soon.
Yeah. So tell us, that begs the next question is, what are your plans for apparel for the future? Have you and Jason kind of talked about that, and where are you guys headed in the future?
Yeah, so I think a big one that we talked about, and I just mentioned it, was UV, bringing on new print methods to open up doors to different products and different partners that we don't currently work with. I mean, with UV, we just saw like the name tags and stuff you can do like that just blows the door open on all kinds of different capabilities. I think one of the things we want to work into is licensing, because we're looking to start our own private site, because we have a plethora of novelty designs. So it's a matter of kind of finding the best ones. Maybe we're opening our own site, driving traffic, but licensing will help with that, because if someone's a fan of, and this example is probably not the best because this is a big fish, but let's say Marvel, right? People love Marvel. If you have a licensing deal with Marvel, people search Marvel t-shirts, it brings more organic traffic that way than just another novelty t-shirt site, right? So licensing is something we're going to be looking into in the future. We just had a conversation with a friend of ours as well that will be moving. He's going to be working with college football teams and doing merch for them. So he wants us to work with them to create merch. And so that could be a cool foot in the door. A couple episodes ago, when I think maybe the last episode of 2020, we talked about what does the future look like for each of our companies, and I said licensing. And so it seems as though in the midst of all this stuff, even though I haven't had time to really pursue it, the opportunities are still presenting themselves for that to be applicable. So there's licensing expos in Vegas, of course, which is always a fun place to go, and I'm sure we could go there together. I mean, you might not have any interest in licensing yet, but it's Vegas, so let's just go. So anyway, yeah, I think that for sure is the future, and of course, expansion in terms of personnel, staffing. I personally do a lot for apparel that could be taken off my plate and given to other people that could be kind of empowered, like to take ownership of inventory and ordering, and you take ownership of the shipping and all that kind of stuff. So of course that as we expand and as we grow and fire ourselves from any kind of production, gives us the ability to do that. Is of course is the end goal, is just to keep expanding. So yeah, there you go.
Cool. That's awesome. That's good stuff. So we like to call these next set of questions on our show, we like to call them the magic questions. Okay, so magic questions for Josiah Cifuentes. Why did you choose your specific area of expertise?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I don't know what my area of expertise is. Influencer marketing might be that kind of area of expertise. But that's only because I had seen it working so well in the professional wrestling world that I figured it would have to translate into a different realm of influencers. Or, I mean, our initial idea was to specifically focus on musicians. Because Jason and I are musicians, you yourself is a musician, and we know a lot of friends of ours that are musicians. And the last thing that musicians think about is merch because they're busy booking themselves or whatever. So that was the first initial thought. And then we just thought, well, I'll just blow the doors off of it and offer it to anybody. So, and because it's a built-in marketing piece. So if someone has 1.5 million followers or 200,000 followers or 10,000 followers, they will drive the traffic. And so you don't have to do a lot of marketing to get people's attentions because they've already followed this personality who is endorsing this thing or this thing that they've made. So you have customer loyalty built in, and because they love their product, they're wanting to support and fund more content from that person. So it really does work really well to get organic traffic. And organic just meaning that we're not doing it. We, What For Apparel, aren't doing anything necessarily to drive it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good answer. Tell us about a time when something happened in your business that felt like a win. It was like, yes, we have done it. We have won. We have won the internet.
We have won the internet. So I think one of the things recently is when we expanded. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to turn the camera here. This space that you see here was our production space. And it goes back a little bit that direction, but the printers were up against this garage door and the dryer was up against that wall there. So we just recently reached the point where we were like, we can no longer house this here and we have to expand. And we'd been talking about that day, that moment when we reached this number, this volume, this profitability to be able to say, yeah, if we stay here, it's actually to our detriment. So we have to move, which was huge for us. And it's crazy if you see what we have now, and the fact that we're busting at the seams already, you'd be shocked that we fit it in that space right there. It's actually pretty incredible to think that we were able to do that. But I think that was a pretty huge win, and a lot of it came from, when you're reaching out to clients all the time. Like I said, some win, some lose, some do some stuff, some don't, and it's just you have to keep soliciting. I remember Trent Deerschmid is a name. Is that his last name? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
So I remember at one of his conferences, or one of the conferences we were at where he was speaking, he talked about how he had paper clips in one cup, and he would take an empty cup, and every call he would make, he would just transfer a paper clip until that the cup that was originally full is no longer full. So it really is a volume game, and it can get super discouraging. So, but when you hit the vein, when you're just trying to find a place to inject the needle, when you finally hit the vein, it feels like a huge win, especially when it can also facilitate physical growth in the company. So that was a huge win.
Yeah, that is a huge win. Let's flip the script and ask you the same question, except we want to know about something that happened that felt like a failure. Dun, dun, dun.
Does it have to be POD specific, or can it be in the Amazon days?
I don't know if I should let you off that easy, but I will because you're my friend.
Well, I know mutual pain in the words Kodiak cakes.
Oh, God. Stop it. Stop it.
So there was, there is, Kodiak cakes for those listening. You've probably seen them in stores. They're a protein pancake. They're like healthy alternatives and stuff. But we got a wholesale account with them, and Travis and our company decided to go in halvesy. And
Just say we were eating pancakes for a while.
We were a lot of pancakes. There's in the Amazon space, man, so many examples like that. There was a coffee company that they told me, well, you're going to be our exclusive Amazon provider and blah, blah, blah. And so we ordered just a shit ton of coffee from these guys only for a month later for them to tell us that we never had that conversation. And I learned that in that moment, I'm like, okay, well, we got to get stuff in writing because that screwed us. I'll sail over our Milwaukee-based clients, but we'll go with.
That's for my interview.
Exactly. So, I think POD wise, man, the first client that I ever reached out to before we even had a printer was starting a podcast and in the professional wrestling space, and he was best friends with this guy who had started wrestling podcasts and has been wildly successful and still is. Now he has 6 podcasts, this gentleman, and he's crazy successful with all of them.
Careful.
And right. No more of this. So, this gentleman that I reached out to, I thought, well, he's a surefire win because he knows this guy and his co-host is really well known in the wrestling space. So I pitched him. He accepted. We were in Vegas. We were at SGIA, I think, when he said yes. And I called Jason and said, hey, I know we don't have printers yet, but this guy wants to go online in 5 days. Our printer gets there in 3. Can we do it? Jason said yes. So I told the guy yes. And I thought that I had just landed the big fish and this was just cruise control. And man, how lucky am I that the first one that I ever solicited was going to be the one that bought me a house. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this, but he's not, it didn't work out. I mean, it kind of was a flop. The merch aspect of his game, because he didn't know how to market it. He didn't know how to push it. And so I felt like an absolute failure because I had hyped this up so much. And when the volume didn't come through to back up my claims, it was like, man, this is really, really shitty. And it taught me to be cautiously optimistic, where I don't get excited about a lot of clients, not in a pessimistic way, but just knowing that, man, okay, they got to prove, proof's in the pudding type thing. But I felt like such a failure because there was no volume and we had all of this stuff already. And man, it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I feel you, man. If you had to offer one POD tip to somebody who is brand new in the print on demand game, what would it be? It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one. It actually is it's a thought-provoking question. And I'm just trying to think of something that I wish I knew going into the game. I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give someone, because I remember when we were first discussing the idea, we vacillated a lot as to whether we should we not. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, where the best thing you could do is to take action. Merch by Amazon, we talk about that a lot. It's a really easy barrier of entry. Printful helps things be pretty easy if you're wanting to sell on Etsy or whatnot. But my biggest piece of advice is just to commit, right? Say yes, go do it. Put some designs up there. Get a designer on onlinejobs.ph, a VA, which we've talked about before. Have them do your designs, but just start and figure out what it is that you're passionate about, that you know a lot about, that you could possibly appeal to other people that are also in that same demographic as yourself, and just start there. You don't have to come up with the best design ever. You don't have to come up with this amazing piece of art. You don't have to come up with the next, I don't know, Taco Cat is a palindrome t-shirt or whatever, which it is, by the way. So write it out and see that I'm not lying. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, man, because for me, even in any aspect of life, for me, whether it's songwriting, whether it's learning an instrument, whether it's this podcast, the best thing you can do is just start and do it.
Yeah, I have all kinds of things that I could say that would support that, but I feel like I would be stealing my own thunder from when we turn the tables and you interview me. So I'm going to save my answers. I wanted to ask you, who do you look up to in the POD world, and why did you choose that person? If you have somebody, do you have somebody that you look up to in the POD world?
I don't know that there's anyone specifically in the print on demand space that I look up to necessarily, because in full transparency, I don't know a lot of folks. I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast, the connections that we have to get the interviews have been completely on Travis's side of things, because he does a lot better job of putting himself out there and kind of being cognizant of what's happening and who's out there in the POD space. So there's been a lot of people that have crossed our paths, and we've been able to interview on the show that have been really inspirational to me. And what they have to offer, even going back to our most recent episode, which if you haven't listened to the episode with Nick Eden, you need to go listen to that episode, because there is some very practical tips and advice that he can give you that isn't ethereal in the fact that you can't grasp it or you're not at that level yet. No, he offers some very boots on the ground advice for you to take and listen to. Episode 55. Go and listen to that episode, because he's just on it, man. And he's such an outside of the box thinker, which inspired me, because a lot of the times you think that once you land on a formula, then that's the formula you need to follow, or things that other people have done. But there's not often that someone comes along like a Nick that says, hey man, think outside the box and how you make money and how you approach print on demand, because it's very versatile and you might not have thought of this way. So if you have an idea that you think would work, again, give it a shot. Take action, see what happens. Of course, in business in general, of course, you have the Gary V's that are, that are very, very motivational. And even people that I know personally, like yourself, like our friend Josh, he's very knowledgeable in business. And so it's very, very easy to look up to him and get advice from him, because he's successful in what he does. It's not even in the POD space, but in the POD space itself, I don't know that I would say
it's pretty much just me, is what you're saying.
Yeah, just you and Chris Green, because I want him to come back on the show.
Gotcha.
So I want to see another pair of sunglasses from you, Chris.
All right. Okay. Next question. I got two more, and then we'll wrap this up. If you had to start all over and you lost all your current contacts, what would you do first? You're going to go into print on demand. You don't know anyone. You know all of the things. You might, you all of the stuff, but you don't have any contacts. You don't have any equipment. You don't have anything. Your slate is wiped clean. You don't have a seller's account. You don't have a merch account. You don't have nothing. What do you do first?
Man, it's a clean slate. That's actually kind of exciting. I know this question is
I make millions.
Exactly. I know this question is usually like a oh shit question for our guests, but for me it's like, man, I could do it all over again. And I even often think about this even now, even with what I do know, is just starting either an Etsy account or Merch by Amazon or whatever that looks like. And Merch by Amazon, of course, they fulfill it themselves, but with an Etsy or what have you, or even a Shopify site of some sort, and just outsourcing it to a Printful or a print on demand provider that doesn't require me to have equipment, that would allow me to, of course, promote my own things, sell my own stuff, but then also talk to influencers about potentially doing their merch, like Nick Eden talked about, but also then kind of doing a whole spectrum package where I would implement kind of my ability and knowledge for post-production, for recording, for that kind of stuff, and kind of offering a marketing package where merch would be an arm of that, but I could also do, post editing for them. I could record them, they could send me footage to post-produce and their stuff and their merch, and I would also facilitate the fulfillment of their merch and just see where that goes from there, because it would kind of be a marriage of all of the passions that I have. I mean, part of the reason that I do this podcast with you is because I enjoy podcasting. I have 5 ideas for other podcasts that I don't have time to do, but I love podcasting. I love the creative process. I love talking about things that I'm passionate about. And so helping other people also do that, I think, would be a lot of fun. And then you could also leverage the Printfuls, like, hey, I'll set you up a Shopify store. You can pay me to do that, and I'll manage the Printful fulfillment of it, or, you know, going to a local print on demand, like a Make Your Mark or What For Apparel, whatever that looks like. So I think that's what I would do, is just kind of almost start a marketing company, but have merch be an arm of that I could also use as an income stream.
Well, I'll just say I am glad that I have monopolized your podcasting time. And,
That's right.
you know, so you can't start all that other crap. You got to focus on this one. So I'm very happy.
Until What For Apparel starts pulling some major growth and I start making a lot more money, I will not have time to just talk into a microphone. So this is right now my sole outlet for my passion for podcasting. Yeah.
well, I speak for the rest of the audience, and I say we appreciate your dedication to your craft, and that it's benefiting us as a POD community. All right, last question. Here we go. This is the crystal ball question. So you know what I asked? I asked my wife, I was like, what is that hat that the guys wear that they clear? She was like, it's a turban. I'm like,
is it a turban?
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put on your turban, okay, and peer into your crystal ball and tell us, what do you think the future of print on demand is? Josiah Cifuentes.
You know, dude, I think honestly, and I've thought this for a while. I mean, we talked about the 3070s at the open of this show, and how we're each getting one. I think that the technology of print on demand is going to get to a point in the next 5 to 10 years where it's going to be very competitive with screen printing in both labor and pricing and ink pricing, because even the 3070, the ink savings that you get when you from a 2100 to a 3070, which I need to ask an Epson rep why they went from a 2100 to a 3070, because it doesn't sequentially make any sense to me. I wanted it to be like the 2350 at least, but 3070 is fine. I'm not complaining. Bring it, please. So I think, though, that I mean, the technology and the capability of DTG, much to the chagrin of Cole Lundstrom, who was a screen printer in Los Angeles, I think honestly that it's going to become very competitive in pricing. I think you're going to be able to do the bulk jobs that screen printers can offer, that, you know, such a price that DTG can't beat at the moment. But I don't think that it's too far out, that it's going to be a kind of a much more competitive space, whether you're a screen printer or a digital printer. And I think also, to echo Nick Eden's sentiment, just because of the experience that I've had in the last 3 years that we've been doing this, I do think that the mom and pop shops are going to be okay. And I'm not just saying that because I am a mom and pop shop, or that you are a mom and pop shop. I'm not saying this to kind of just, you know, stroke our egos and soothe our insecurities here. I really do think because of the relational aspect, because yes, there's a demographic of people who want to shop local, especially with, you know, these conglomerates that kind of claim so much of the market. But I do think that the relational aspect, the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody and have an answer and have someone that can actually affect change, whereas an Amazon or a Printful is kind of like a left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And if you get a cohesive and coherent solution, your first phone call, then you are blessed and highly favored. I think that's why mom and pop shops have a shot at this, and they're going to be okay. And with the technology advancing the way that it is, and the other stuff that you have the ability to do, like UV on a print on demand basis, I think that the mom and pop shops are going to be just fine. So to summarize, I think that the technology, because the listeners probably hit the fast forward button 3 times, I think the technology is going to get to a point where we're going to be competitive with screen printers. And so you're not going to have to necessarily lose bulk jobs to a screen printer because of pricing or efficiency issues. And and the mom and pop shops are going to have an advantage, because the bigger other companies get, there's always going to be people who want more of a personal touch. So,
right.
And Travis, I want to know your answer to this question, but as you've alluded to, that's another episode. So that is where this episode ends. And I can guarantee you folks that Travis is going to have some great answers to these questions, maybe some similar answers. I don't know, but you're going to have to wait to find out, because he too is a wealth of knowledge. And I know that it's going to be something you're not going to want to miss. So I don't know if it's going to be next week. So I don't know if it's going to be the week after that, but whatever it's going to be, you're going to want to be here to listen and to find out the answers. And the only way to do that is to subscribe here on the Print on Demand Cast. And as always, we thank you guys for listening. I want to thank you guys for listening, for listening to me ramble for 45 minutes, maybe. So thank you for taking an interest in my answers to these questions. As always, wherever podcasts are available, we are available there for you. The PODcast is there for your listening pleasure. If you happen to be listening on the Apple Podcast app, please leave us a 5-star review and a rating. You can literally just smash the keyboard if you want. It doesn't have to be a coherent sentence. Just leave us a 5-star rating and a review. But if you do leave us a review,
I was going to say we have a couple of reviews. I think we should save them since we're on an hour mark. We actually have gotten a couple of reviews, so we're going to shout those out. Remind me next week, Josiah. We'll shout at least one of them out, and then we'll save. Okay. Because we need content, and that's kind of the name of the game. So we'll shout at least one of them out next week.
Unfortunately, content's not always on demand like print can be, but it takes some forethought. So Travis and I will be discussing, I'm sure, next week's episode while we're losing our asses in a poker game at a bar in Erie, Colorado, for anyone that cares. So anyway, the best way, of course, to find out what's going on, to get in on the conversation, if you loved my answers, if you hated my answers, if you want to know how much tequila I had, printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you go to find out any of those answers. You can ask us any of the questions that you want to know, but most of all, it helps build a community. And that's what this podcast was about in its inception, is to start a community of people to come together, to trade tips and tricks and give tools to be successful, because that's what we wish we would have had when we started this thing as well. Of course, the easiest way to support the podcast, printondemandcast.com/shop, grab a shirt, any shirt, one of the shirts, 2 of the shirts, but we will be forever in your debt. Not really. If you buy a shirt, but yeah, that's the easiest way to support the podcast. If you like the show, if you like what's happening, and we will be happy to shout you out as well if you purchase your shirt. So, Travis, with that, is there anything else before we put a bow on this thing and wrap it up?
No, I just want to thank you, Josiah Cifuentes, for coming on the Print on Demand Cast. I know, you weren't necessarily expecting to come on the Print on Demand Cast today, and you just, you treated it like a champ, and you knocked it out of the park. Thought some of your answers were great, and for me and Josiah, we appreciate you, Josiah, coming on the Print on Demand Cast.
Me too, and you might want to check that Josiah into a hospital, because it seems like he might have schizophrenia. We don't know, but I can tell you, there's a couple other people at the bottom of the barrel if you want to reach there for content for another episode. Where I was. They'd be happy to oblige. But seriously, guys, thanks again for listening. For Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you next week right here on the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.